If you pay only the minimum on a $5,000 credit card balance at today's average interest rate, you could still be paying it off nearly 2 decades from now, and you'll have handed the credit card company more in interest than you originally borrowed. That's not a scare tactic, that's federally mandated math. By law, your credit card statement is required to show you that exact number in a box every single month. Almost nobody reads it. Today we're breaking down how people on real, modest incomes, not high earners with huge disposable cash, are actually getting out of credit card debt using verified numbers from the Federal Reserve and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. No hype, no get-rich nonsense, just the real mechanics. Let's set the stage with where things actually stand right now. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's Household Debt and Credit Report, total U.S. credit card balances reached $1.26 trillion in the second quarter of 2026, up $21 billion from the previous quarter. And according to the Federal Reserve's G.19 consumer credit release, the average interest rate on credit card accounts that are actively accruing interest hit 22.115% in that same quarter, up from 21.52% just 3 months earlier. Here's what most debt payoff content gets wrong. It's written for people with $500 or $1,000 of extra monthly cash to throw at debt. That's not the reality for a huge share of the country. Median household income in the U.S. was $83,730 in 2024, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, and that's the median, meaning half of all households earn less than that, often significantly less, once you account for regional cost of living, family size, and fixed expenses. So the real question isn't how did a 6-figure earner pay off debt in 8 months? It's what actually works when your margin is $50 or $150 a month, not $1,000. That's what this video is built around: verified data, real mechanics, and a strategy that doesn't require you to already be financially comfortable to use it. Here's the uncomfortable part. Credit card debt isn't evenly distributed, but it also isn't rare. According to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, the most comprehensive federal study of family balance sheets, about 45% of American families carried credit card debt as of the 2022 survey, a share that's been fairly stable for years. Among families who did carry a balance, the median amount owed was $2,700, while the mean, or average, was $6,100. A gap that tells you a smaller number of households with very large balances are pulling that average upward, while most people with credit card debt are dealing with a more modest, though still very real, amount. That distinction matters because most debt content shows you the average, which can feel either impossibly small or impossibly large depending on your situation. The truth is more useful. Whatever your balance is, you're not an outlier, and the tools that work don't require a massive balance or a massive income to apply. The deeper problem is what happens when a modest balance meets an interest rate above 20%. On a lower income, every dollar already has a job: rent, groceries, transportation, childcare. There's rarely a comfortable surplus sitting around waiting to be redirected. Which means the strategy for paying off debt on a lower income can't just be spend less and pay more, the way most generic advice frames it. It has to be a system that works even when the surplus is small, inconsistent, or occasionally zero. That's exactly the kind of system we're going to build in this video. There's also a psychological layer that rarely gets addressed honestly. When most of the content in this space is built around dramatic 6-figure payoff stories, it quietly sends the message that a modest, slower payoff somehow doesn't count. That if you're not attacking a huge balance with a huge income, you're not really on a journey at all. That framing is backwards. A household earning a modest wage that pays off $2,700 in 2 years using $50 a month of consistent extra payments has done something just as real, just as mathematically sound, and arguably harder to sustain than someone redirecting a large bonus toward an $80,000 balance. The size of the number on your statement doesn't change whether the strategy is working. Let's look at exactly what carrying a balance costs, using verified Federal Reserve rate data. At the current average APR for interest-accruing credit card accounts, 22.15% according to the Fed's G.19 release for Q2 2026. Here's what happens to a mid-sized balance under different payment approaches. If you owe $5,000 and pay only the minimum required each month, the payoff timeline commonly stretches well beyond a decade, and total interest paid over that time can exceed the original amount borrowed. This isn't a guess, it's exactly why the Credit Card Act of 2009 legally requires every credit card issuer to print a minimum payment warning box directly on your monthly statement under Federal Regulation 12 CFR Section 1026.7 BSP 12, enforced by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That box shows you two numbers: how long it will take to pay off your balance at the minimum, and how much you'd need to pay monthly to clear it in 36 months instead. Now compare that to a household that finds even a modest amount of extra money, say, redirecting $75 to $100 a month beyond the minimum. On that same $5,000 balance, the payoff timeline can shrink from over a decade down to 3 or 4 years, and total interest paid can drop by thousands of dollars. That's not a small win. That's the difference between a debt that follows you for most of a decade and one you close out in a few years. The other number worth knowing, the CFPB confirms that most issuers calculate your minimum payment as either a flat percentage of your balance, commonly in the 1% to 3% range, or a small flat dollar amount, whichever is higher, plus that month's interest charges. In other words, the minimum payment is specifically structured to barely outpace the interest you're being charged. It is not designed to get you out of debt quickly. It's designed to keep the balance active. Let's break down the actual mechanics of what paying off debt fast on a low income really means. Because it's not about income size, it's about interest math and payment order. First, understand the two things working against you: the APR, currently averaging 22.115% on interest accruing balances per the Fed's G.19 data, and time. Every month a balance sits, interest compounds onto it. The longer it sits, the more of every future payment goes toward interest, instead of the actual amount you borrowed. Now here's the part that matters most if your income is limited. The size of your extra payment matters less than people think. Consistency matters more. A household that reliably redirects $40 extra every single month for 2 years will often beat a household that throws $300 at debt one month, then nothing for the next 3. The Fed's minimum payment disclosure math assumes consistent monthly payments, and so should your plan. Second, understand the debt avalanche method in this specific context. If you have more than one credit card, the avalanche method means you make minimum payments on all of them, but every extra dollar you can find goes toward the card with the highest interest rate first. Once that one's paid off, you roll its entire payment, minimum plus whatever extra you were adding, onto the card with the next highest rate. This is mathematically the cheapest way to become debt-free, because you're neutralizing your most expensive debt first. Third, on a limited income, finding the extra dollar is the actual skill, not the math itself. This isn't about finding $500 hiding in your budget. For most lower-income households, that's not realistic advice. It's about finding $20, $30, $50 through specific, repeatable moves, renegotiating one recurring subscription, adjusting a phone or insurance plan, or redirecting a specific windfall, a tax refund, for example, directly at the highest rate balance instead of letting it get absorbed into regular spending. Small, repeatable amounts, applied consistently against the highest rate debt, is the actual engine of a low-income payoff plan. Fourth, understand why automating the extra payment matters more on a tight budget than on a comfortable one. When money is tight, the same dollar can get pulled in a dozen directions by the end of the month. A slightly higher grocery bill, a forgotten small expense, a moment of decision fatigue. Setting the extra debt payment to process automatically, right after payday, before anything else touches that money, removes the monthly decision entirely. It's not about having more discipline, it's about needing less of it, because the system runs on its own. Let's walk through 2 realistic composite scenarios built from the data we've already covered, not real individuals, but representative examples grounded in actual national averages. Scenario 1. Picture a household carrying the national median credit card balance for families who hold debt, $2,700 according to the Fed's Survey of Consumer Finances, at an APR close to today's national average of roughly 22%. Making only the minimum payment using the standard percentage of balance formula the CFPB describes, this balance can take several years to clear, with a meaningful chunk of every payment going to interest. Now picture that same household finding an extra $50 a month. Not a dramatic lifestyle overhaul, just one recurring cost trimmed or renegotiated. That single change can cut the payoff timeline roughly in half and meaningfully reduce total interest paid. without requiring a raise, a second job, or a windfall. Scenario 2. Picture a household with two cards, a smaller balance at a lower promotional rate, and a larger balance at the near 22% national average. Using the avalanche method, every spare dollar goes to the higher rate card first, while the lower rate card gets minimum payments only. Once the expensive card is cleared, its full payment amount rolls onto the second card, which then gets paid off far faster than if the household had split extra payments evenly between both from the start. What both scenarios share is this: neither required a six-figure income. Both required identifying the highest cost debt, finding a modest and repeatable amount of extra money, and applying it consistently, month after month, without interruption. That's the actual formula. Not a secret, just discipline applied to the right target. This is the section most debt content skips, because it's not motivational, but it's often the difference between a plan that works and one that quietly falls apart. Mistake 1. Treating the minimum payment box as informational instead of a warning. As we covered, federal law requires issuers to disclose exactly how long minimum-only payoff will take under CFPB-enforced Regulation Z. Most people never read that box. It's not fine print. It's the clearest, most honest number on the entire statement. Mistake 2. Attacking debt with zero buffer. If every spare dollar goes to debt and something unexpected happens, a car repair, a reduced work schedule, many households have no choice but to put that expense right back on the card they were just paying down. According to the Federal Reserve's most recent survey of household economics and decision-making, 63% of adults said they could cover a $400 emergency with cash or its equivalent, a figure that's been flat for 3 straight years, meaning a meaningful share of the country still couldn't. Even a very small starter cushion, before going all in on extra debt payments, protects the progress you've already made. Mistake 3. Opening new credit to solve old credit. Balance transfer offers and consolidation loans can genuinely help some households lower their effective interest rate, but they only work if the underlying spending pattern that created the balance in the first place has actually changed. Without that, it's common to end up carrying both the old balance and new debt. If you're considering a balance transfer, the specific terms, the promotional rate, how long it lasts, and any transfer fee vary widely by issuer and change often, so verifying the current offer directly on the card issuer's own disclosure is essential before assuming it will save money. Let's line up the numbers that actually drive this decision. Average APR on credit card accounts accruing interest 22.15% per the Federal Reserve's G.19 release Q2 2026, among the most expensive common forms of consumer debt. Median credit card balance for families carrying debt, $2,700, per the Federal Reserve's 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances. Share of families carrying any credit card debt, approximately 45%, stable across recent surveys. Adults who could cover a $400 emergency with cash, 63% according to the Fed's most recent survey of household economics and decision-making, unchanged for 3 years. Minimum payment formula most issuers use, roughly 1% to 3% of the balance, or a small flat amount, whichever is higher, plus interest, confirmed by CFPB Consumer Education Materials. Compare that 22.15% average credit card APR to other common forms of debt. Federal student loan rates are set by statute and have historically run dramatically lower, and even elevated mortgage rates in recent years sit well below where credit cards average. That gap is exactly why dollar for dollar credit card debt deserves priority treatment in almost any household's payoff order. It is simply the most expensive debt most people carry. The comparison that matters most for your specific plan isn't the national average against another national average. It's your card's actual APR, printed on your statement, against the extra amount you can consistently commit each month. That single relationship, more than your income level, determines your real payoff timeline. So what does this actually mean if you're trying to do this on a real limited income? First, the plan that works isn't about finding a dramatic windfall. It's about 3 concrete steps. Know your exact APR and balance for every card you carry. It's printed right on your statement. Identify the highest rate card and commit any extra amount, even a small one, to it first, while keeping minimums current everywhere else. And build in a small buffer before going aggressive, so a minor emergency doesn't send you backward. Second, use the number your card issuer is already legally required to give you. That minimum payment warning box shows you, in black and white, both how long minimum-only payments will take and what a 36-month payoff would require. That's not marketing, it's federally mandated disclosure. Comparing what you can actually afford against that 36-month figure gives you an honest, personalized target without needing a financial advisor or a spreadsheet. Third, and this matters especially on a limited income, consistency beats intensity. A $30 extra payment made every month without fail will often outperform a $300 payment made once and then abandoned. The math rewards households that treat their extra payment like a fixed bill, something that happens automatically, the same way rent or a phone bill does, rather than something that only happens in a good month. If there's one number to remember from this entire video, it's 22.15%, the current average interest rate on the credit card debt most Americans are carrying, according to the Federal Reserve. That number is the actual obstacle, not your income, not your discipline in some abstract sense. A specific verifiable percentage working against your balance every single day it goes unpaid. The good news, backed by the same federal data, is that this obstacle responds directly to two things nearly anyone can influence, regardless of income: which debt you attack first, and how consistently you attack it. Prioritizing your highest rate balance and committing even a modest, repeatable extra payment changes the entire trajectory, often by years, and often by thousands of dollars in interest you'll never have to pay. Paying off credit card debt on a low income isn't about willpower alone, and it isn't about waiting until you earn more. It's about redirecting whatever margin you do have toward the debt that's costing you the most, and doing that same simple thing again next month, and the month after that. Every figure in this video came directly from the Federal Reserve and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, current as of mid-2026. Every source is linked below so you can check your own statement against it before making any decisions. If this gave you a clearer, more honest picture of what paying off credit card debt actually takes, that's the goal. Not a shortcut, a real plan you can actually run on a real budget. Pull out your last statement, find that minimum payment warning box, and compare it to what you just learned. If you want the next video, how to actually negotiate with a card issuer for a lower rate or a hardship plan, let me know in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss it.